I understand the laws in the United States, and that every man who marries a woman, she has a loaded gun, right? The state gives her a loaded gun. I never let our disagreements get to the point where she ever had to make some kind of decision to try to leave me, right? Because if she did, I would be destroyed. Your woman could destroy you if you don't have a real solid prenup.
I do need to be humble in the sense that even though I can go out here and get another woman, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm very afraid to leave someone whom I share so much of my identity with. Right. So I look at because I'm gonna be honest with you. Every person I know that's been with someone so long, when they leave, you still that person, wife or husband. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna address you as anything else. In my culture, they call you by the name of your first child. It's mommy such and such, and then the other name after that is such and such wife or husband. Like they won't call you anything different. You could be with somebody new and they're gonna be like, that person's husband. Like you. So I'm really afraid to leave someone whom I share that much history with, and I really feel like there's no point to it. Let me know what y'all thought. Or unless, of course, if there's abuse or, the extreme stuff. But if it's something that can be worked through, I'm gonna work through it simply because, yeah, I'm just her husband for an eternity at this point.
I guess I have more of a question than a suggestion. Since you're already very aware of this, right? Are you doing anything preventative or are you waiting to, meet that roadblock?
So at this point, it's just the awareness. It's just the awareness. I think we got a lot of life till our children are still young. We've been married 4 years. I think what it really is for me is just like I said, the adherence to the duty, but also learning from my elders. I've always taken a very keen focus on what my elders are doing because they're actually nobody has just a great marriage, right? You got to really get a detailed focus on how are they making this thing work from day to day? And as much as they're willing to tell you, get the problems and how they work through it, right? Because I feel like relationships, marriages go through phases, and then you have to want to willingly engage with your partner who may be a brand new person after that phase. I personally think a postmenopausal woman is probably a huge stage for a man to understand.
Can I add something to what you're saying?
Yes,
Um,
sir.
let
Oh,
me
you've been
let me
married. You
take
the
you
OG
back.
here. You
Let
take
me
the
let
floor.
me throw this out at you because you mentioned this thing about looking into the future about the woman that's going to be around you when you have an empty nest. One of the things that I did was early on when we first started having children. We have two, and I mentioned this here already. I told my wife we had I'm just going to say what happened. One day she mentioned something about her kids. She used that term. A lot of women do that. These are my kids. My first priority are my kids. Blah blah blah. So I stopped her and said, you know what? They're not your kids. They're our kids. They're our kids. I don't want you to go around saying these are your kids. They're our kids. And and I said, our kids will be taken care of if we take care of our relationship. And I said, our relationship is the center of this household. What we do and how we grow together is going to take care of the kids automatically. And one of the reasons why I said that is because we did talk about what we would do when we be empty nesters, and that's where we are pretty much today. Because I didn't want to look over to a woman that was unrecognizable to me when we're in our 50s and 60s. And so one of the things we always had healthy vacations without our kids. We found ways to take care of them. We took them with us sometimes. I think it was a mistake for some couples never to have a vacation without their kids around. I think that's crazy. So we did things to keep us close. We have a lot of same things that are in common. And even though I had this difference in the love question, I mean, I know we're still in love. I mean, I asked my wife to marry me after 5 months, right, of just knowing her. I said, this is it. I'm not moving any further. I was like 29, she was 26, something like that. But anyway, but gets back on the point. So the things you want to be prepared for in the future with your wife, if you're planning to be married to her forever, is that those seeds have to be planted now. And if you allow the seeds to grow with a woman who naturally will start to just focus on the kids if you let her, that's where those divisions start to happen because you become secondary or even tertiary, depending on how many kids you have. So I always wanted to make sure that, yeah, you're going to be nurturing, you're going to be loving, you're going to, do a lot for the kids. But I made sure my wife always knew that in our household, our marriage was number one. Our relationship was number one. And that I love my kids just as much as she does, and that's how we built this thing. And, so even right today, one of my daughters is out of the house, the other one's graduated, she came back so she can save some money. But the deal is we have like Sunday dinners, right? So, and actually I cook a lot too. And you probably can tell. But anyhow, so Sunday dinners, my other one comes back home, not every Sunday, but maybe twice a month. And we sit around the table and we talk. And I like that because now I'm talking to full-fledged adults, right? My daughters have their own thought processes, and which is good for me. I learned. So I don't want to get too much off the topic. So, Trigger Mike, if the things you want about from your wife, you're cultivating right now in your marriage, right? So that's part of my 35 years. We go back and forth, the ups and downs. And the one last thing I'm going to say about humility with my wife. I understand the laws in the United States and that every man who marries a woman, she has a loaded gun, right? The state gives her a loaded gun. I never let our disagreements get to the point where she ever had to make some kind of decision to try to leave me, right? Because if she did, I would be destroyed. Your woman could destroy you if you don't have a real solid prenup. So I always had a healthy respect for the fact that this woman I'm dealing with at any time could just pull the trigger. So I mean, it sounds extreme, but it was always in the back of my head because I was, I didn't call it that, but I was always red pill enough about the realities of marriage. So I always gave her a healthy deference. Not that we talked about that, but that's in my head. And luckily again, we never got to the point where we had those kind of disagreements where I had to put my foot down and say, if you don't want it, if it's not this way, get the hell out, or I'm leaving. I was lucky or blessed that we never had to do that. But I always knew, if she got me in the courtroom with bows in her hair and stuff and, crying, man, the judge with a job, I'd be working for food outside in the street. So because she hasn't had to work for years. She does. She worked for the church, but that's just a labor of love. So she don't have to ask me for beer money. But so you gotta as a man, we gotta understand if we're in this relationship, in the United States, that we have to understand we have to cultivate it always. We have to always cultivate it and move it in the direction that we need it to move. And part of that's picking the right woman, of course. But, again, I was just blessed that I ran into her. So I don't know if that helps enough, but it's really how what you want in the future is how you start planting those seeds today. Yeah. That's it.
Bruce, you want to respond?
No, man. I just want to say appreciate everybody's perspective. It's good to be on a panel whenever it's all about the solution. It's a different energy I ain't never really felt on the Lapeef Network. I thought Lapeef Network was all about, Bruiser, you better have your points right because they ain't going to come for you.
Well,
evolution, man, evolution.
Yeah, I seen Bruiser taking notes. I seen him shed a few tears.
Yeah.